Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode 8 of FPL BlackBox. If you're watching this, please don't forget to sub
Oh, he's
and
in
like.
already.
I'm going in early, Mark, this
Oh,
time.
smash it straight away.
Smashed it straight. Smash that like and sub button. Hope we're all doing well. I am on the beer again, but I am not as drunk as Friday night, so
No.
don't worry about that. And Mark is joining me in solidarity.
Well, I thought after we got such rave reviews when been on the beers, I thought we better stick to it all the time. But
It's
we'll
nice to know
see.
that people prefer no preparation
Yeah,
whatsoever.
yeah. It takes me a few hours to get everything ready for this show, and obviously we do a bit of a conversation about what's going to be in it. But that Friday night show we did live for Az's Wildcard, we literally just got on screen and did it, and got rave reviews. So
Yeah.
basically, zero preparation, lots of beer. That's the way forward. But well, we'll see.
What can you say? How you doing anyway? You all right?
Yeah, I'm good. Yeah, absolutely good. And we will promise to do more of those shows. Probably not going to do one this Friday because it's the Villa game, but we will certainly roll our sleeves up and get some of those done as well. Tonight, we're hopefully not going to do 2 hours though. It's going to push it though. We've got a lot to cover as we've got to pick apart your wildcard articles.
Yeah, and it's an interesting one because there's kind of three ways that could have gone, and I wasn't because we're adding our notes to to the black box thinking and the mistakes we've made, and
Yeah.
I can't really work out whether it was a mistake. I'm kind of happy with the result in my team, so I'm
Do you want me to
guessing
help you
it's
out with that?
yeah. You can give me your counsel as to what you think. But yeah, what else have we got? What else are we talking about today?
Oh, okay. Well, got quite a lot. We're going to look at This Much We Know, which is an old article where I used to do on the Scout. When it basically we talked about the stuff that we know now, and I think it's a good time to do it because, yeah, game week 5, I was completely wrong with the wild cards. I went on record as to say I don't think that. Well, I said I certainly wasn't ready to play the wild card because I didn't know enough. I didn't trust that Spurs were the Spurs we saw in that game against West Ham. I thought that maybe West Ham would keep them at bay and Kane and Son wouldn't run right. But after 15 minutes, it was pretty clear that was
Yeah.
absolute nonsense and I'd got it wrong. But, is it a time now where we can look at the season so far and make some statements about what we've got in front of us? Is the data actually strong enough where we can start making decisions that will work? Because, of course, the wild cards in game weeks 2, 3, and 4 were abject failures because basically the season took us by surprise, and every time we thought we had it worked out, and those guys who played their wild card obviously did it with some confidence that they knew the best players to pick, they got found out. But in game week 5 it all changed. So is it now the turning point? We're going to look at some statements that I've written and see how many of those as that you think ring true so far. Other than that, we're going to look at team stats, attack and defence. We've got our watch list. We're going to make some changes to those. We'll look ahead to the game week. We'll look at the captains. We'll reveal Servert's captaincy. I've got it this week. We'll look at the Black Box League, and then Gaz is going to say, "Smash that button again." All the
Yeah,
way
double
around,
double time this time.
full circle. So let's look at your team. Let's look at the game week straight away.
Yeah.
So you got 80 points with this team. This is the
hmm
wildcard team. And so what? Are you not pleased? You are pleased?
No, I am pleased. I mean, like we were talking about, I think, it was the international break. I think I had three options. My first option would have been to have waited until the end of the internationals,
Mm.
not made a transfer, and then I think my transfers would have been very different to the transfers that I made at the start. So I would have had the knowledge about De Bruyne, so I probably would have done De Bruyne to Son, kept Werner anyway, and done Davis to Calvert-Lewin. So I think I did a bit of research, and those moves I'd be about even. I think I'd be about 3 points down on the wildcard team that I had. But the crucial thing is, at this point, I would be 0.8 down in team value.
If you hadn't have played the wildcard, or if you hadn't have made those early
If I
transfers.
hadn't made those early transfers, I would have been
Yeah,
0.5 down,
yeah.
and then the wildcard got me an extra point 0.3 on top of that as well.
Yeah, I mean,
So
Joe was talking about early transfers and not to do them, but I mean,
yeah, I was really surprised. Yeah,
when it's a swing of 0.5, that's like get to the point where you've got to, I think.
yeah.
But
So
yeah,
it was 0.5 just over the international break, and then
mm,
obviously since then I've bought in Martinez.
I
He's gone
saw.
up as well.
Yeah,
Grealish has gone up. Lamptey as well. So
yeah.
yeah, yeah. So there's that. I mean, the other option, and I think you've done the work for me, is I could have just taken the -8. If I'd taken the -8, I would have sold Werner.
Well, yeah.
So Werner would have been gone, and I'd be what was it about 20 points down
Well, I'll show
from
you
where
in
I
a
am now?
minute. Let's have a
Show me.
look. So this is what you would have had. I made a guess at what your first 11 would be. So you would have sold Werner, and what was the other transfer you did? Oh, Son in for De Bruyne, right?
Yeah.
And then you had Mopay in for Davis. So there were your 3 transfers. You'd have spent -8, and you'd have scored a total of 60 points.
Yeah.
So 20 points gained, which doesn't sound a lot, but obviously what you've done though is set up your team. If we go back to your team, you've set up your team for the long haul. You'd hope.
Yeah, I mean, pretty much one of the main reasons I did it was because when I'd done the -8, I was looking at my team and I was thinking, there's still players here. There's some that I like, so players like Semedo I didn't want to get rid of, and Mopey I just bought in. But then I had players like Pereira and like Walker Peters and Ryan in goal, and there was still players who I wouldn't want going forward. So I thought I'm constantly going to be taking a transfer every week to move those players out, and Grealish would have been hard to get, and it just didn't seem right, and taking the -8 as well. So yeah, I made the decision, played the wild card. Team looks in better shape going forward. 20 points up on the -8, 0.8 value gained on not making the early transfers. So overall, I think it was a success.
You're pleased, so you're kind of towards pleased, are you?
I'm towards the green of pleased.
Okay. What about Kane? How are you feeling about Kane? Because I got criticised for trying to convince you to have my players, but I'm pretty sure Andy and me were sort of saying get Kane in as well. So it was a mix of me playing mind games. To be honest, I can't really remember the stream. It's all a blur. It was delirious.
Well, you can't remember even what I feel.
1 o'clock in the morning. Yeah, exactly. But how do you feel about Kane now? I mean, Werner obviously delivered for you, but what do you feel about Kane going forward now?
I mean, the point of Kane, the problem with if I'd gone for Kane would be that I would have had to have weakened somewhere else in the squad. So it wasn't like it was Werner and a 4.5 mid over Werner and Souček. It would have been the difference between like Werner and Grealish over Kane and Barkley, or Werner and a 4.5 defender over Werner and Semedo. So it's not just a straight case of Kane or Werner in that situation. It would have been a weakening somewhere else. Alexander-Arnold potentially could have been the one that I got rid of, but I'm still reluctant to get rid of him, even though now they've got even worse news with Van Dijk out and all of that. But no, I mean, Kane is someone who I think is going to continue to deliver points, but I don't think I'd be captaining him in the next 2 anyway, because Salah's there with 2 great fixtures. I've got Son in, and I liked what I saw from Werner. I think the United game is going to be tough, but then Chelsea have got a good run of fixtures themselves. So, how much can Kane hurt me? I mean, if Werner blanks for the next 3 games and Kane scores braces every match, then okay, fair enough. It's been a complete disaster. But if Werner can get a couple of goals and Grealish outscores Barkley by enough, or I just need my other players to chip in. And I think Kane isn't. I know we're going to talk about how great Kane is at the moment, but you can't have everyone. Like we talked about on the Scoutcast yesterday, you've got there's Fernandes, for example. I talked about him on the wild card. He is a player I worry about every week, but unless I take someone out to get him, I can't have him. The City boys, I mean, you've got Sterling and De Bruyne when they're back. I'm not going to be able to move for them easily. You physically cannot have every player. And I know Kane is the one that everyone wants at the moment, but I'm happy with my team and I don't feel the need to rip it up.
So you've got no plan to get Kane. So
I've got no plan.
If Werner disappoints in this game week and Kane goes to Burnley and gets a couple of goals, you'll sit on it and wait for Werner's better fixtures.
Well, I'd have 2 transfers, right, to which would make it easier.
Right.
So if Werner, if Chelsea look really poor against United and Spurs absolutely hammer Burnley, then I could move Semedo out,
right,
and look at. I mean, it'd be difficult because Kane's just rising so much in price now. Like he's nearly 11. He's going to be up to 11 million soon, which is going to be an issue. So I don't have any plans to get him in currently, but with 2 transfers, I could, in theory, get him in if I wanted to. But I just think, I know he's got 3 amazing games. He's got Burnley, he's got Brighton, and then he's got West Brom. And then the fixtures turn. And no one's going to want 2 Spurs for that, I don't think.
No, I mean, I went through the same process. And as you know, I was on WhatsApp with you going, what should I do? Should I go Jimenez to Kane? And we'll find out in a minute what I did. But yeah, and I looked ahead to game week 9 where it does turn. And I was thinking to myself, can I make it to there without him and then have that difference of going perhaps for an Aguero or a Man United player at that point when the fixtures turn? But it's very, very difficult. With Kane rising in price and the chance that he maintains it, that's the trouble.
I'll tell you what I'd do. If I absolutely decided after this game that I had to get Kane, I'd do Werner and Trent to Kane and a 5.5 defender.
Losing Trent.
I'd lose Trent, yeah.
We're not going to go into depth on the Van Dijk, Trent Robertson thing. We'll talk a bit about it later, but there's been a lot of coverage of that. So you, just going back to this, you gained 20 points with your wild card, which isn't bad. It's funny though, I was thinking like wild cards must be 30, 35 points, but you know, when I play mine and if I go to the trouble of working it out, it's probably only going to be about the same as well. Because I looked at the BlackBox League, and this is the best wild card that was played in a BlackBox League by Jerome Sforts. He would have scored 36 and he got 94, so he got a 58-point gain. But I looked at teams that would have scored 60 points, and the top difference I could find between their score they would have got and the score they did get was 27. So you're only 7 points behind the best that I could see. So basically, obviously, the better your team originally, the smaller the gap's going to be between your original team and the wildcards. So that kind of suggests that you had a decent enough team, but you would have been 20 points poorer and you'd have been down on cash and you wouldn't have had, the players you've got in now. So I suppose it was a good wild card.
Thank you so much.
I mean, you graced us with your presence at 12 o'clock at night going for the wild card. You went through that. I think it's only fair. And the wild card generally was a massive success. I mean, I've got to mention Joss on always cheating because unfortunately it was really bad because I was on the show, you were on the show, on the FPL show, and he was coming on to talk about the fact he was playing his wild card. And I knew he was coming on, but I didn't think he was listening to all the bits before. And so just before he came on to tell us how he was playing his wild card for Kane and Son, I was saying how I would never play a wild card to get Kane and Son. So I was basically arguing against the exact reason he was making his wild, because I just felt that, could we rely on Kane and Son delivering against West Ham? I had my doubts because of how the season
you were sure of a West Ham win, weren't you? And
I thought
weren't far off.
No, I thought they'd get a result there, get a win. I said, that Spurs would score, but West Ham would win, and another 10 minutes that might have been the case. But
I know, yeah,
crazy game. But yeah, there's no doubt the wild cards were successful. Joss did really well with his. He was in a position of strength anyway, so he's leapt up the rankings, and he's obviously incredibly pleased with how it's gone. He's got Kane and Son. He's got a team set now. And the average score for the wildcard, bears this out as well. The average score overall in the game was 72.7 for the wildcard, as shown here, which is, nearly 16 points ahead of the no-chip average. These are numbers from Live FPL, by the way. So yeah.
I mean, we've seen in previous weeks that wildcard and free hit number being lower than the no-chip.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
It was a good week to wildcard.
So those who had no chip got an average of 56.3, and those who wildcarded got 72.7. So a clear win for the wildcarders. So congratulations for those who played their wildcard.
Thank you.
You chose the right week. It was the first week of the season where finally things went to form. It was, you backed yourself to do it, as did Josh and many others, and it came off, so well done. And hopefully now we're getting somewhere towards normality. Maybe that's a sign. We'll have to see.
Yeah, I doubt that somehow, but it's a nice thought.
Here's my game week, 63, not bad, but oh dear. The biggest, even though I missed the opportunity to play the wild card and talk about that in a second, the biggest lesson learned from this week was look at the bench, second sub, Luca Dean, 7 points. Now it doesn't sound a lot, a 6-point swing from James, but the fact is, before the show I had Dina in and I changed it Saturday morning. I should never make a Saturday morning change, should I?
That's got to be on our list. I mean, they just don't work out. I mean, look it's cost me points already this season. It's cost you points. I mean, didn't you get lucky a few weeks ago because you played James and he didn't play, and then Souček came on? Yeah.
So I don't know, maybe.
Yes,
right? Yeah, it was right. Yeah, something like that. Yeah, that's right.
So
he didn't come on. Yeah, and I mean that was a lucky one. I didn't get away with it this time. James, I knew when I saw the Chelsea bench he'd come on because there wasn't a central midfielder on the bench. And I knew that Lampard can play him in central midfield, and lo and behold, he brought him on. I can't remember who for, but brought him on in midfield for the final minute, and therefore
that's a real kicker, isn't it?
But it's my fault. I can only blame myself, and I really do. Even though it's just 6 points, I can't make that mistake again. But elsewhere, I've got to say I was incredibly lucky. And I was incredibly lucky because of what Pep said. And when Pep ruled De Bruyne out, it made it clear that I had to take a hit and get Son in. Now, if Pep had said De Bruyne might be a bit short, I might have held him. and I didn't because he was clear. And I wasn't the only one. I think FBL General tweeted that he was grateful to Pep and also Brendan Rodgers, because Brendan Rodgers said about Vardy that he was, doubtful. I think a major doubt, maybe even said he was out. I can't remember. But obviously General had Vardy. So General went De Bruyne to Son, Vardy to Kane, Captain Kane, massive hauls, all off the back of getting definite team news. And the thing is for me as well, this knocks on, because had I not got Son with the hit, I wouldn't have the money now to do Jimenez to Kane. I think I'll be 0-1 short.
I know.
So the impact of me not doing that De Bruyne to Son transfer, I mean, we don't know what De Bruyne would have got against Arsenal, but I don't think he would have got.
Well, I wouldn't have done it. I wouldn't have wildcarded if they'd been. I wouldn't have taken the hit.
No.
If Pep had said, "Oh, he's a 50-50," there's absolutely no way I would have done it either. So so how many points was that? So you would have captained Salah and kept De Bruyne and got Brewster. So that's probably about 16 points.
I didn't work it out, but I'd be incredibly more miserable than I was.
Yeah.
I mean, I was miserable enough as it was for missing out on doing the wildcard. But yeah, I mean, it shows you. I mean, we often talk about luck in this game, but we often equate luck to a penalty save or someone coming off the bench. We don't often equate it to a little bit of team news like that, which makes up your mind. But we have to acknowledge the luck in that. And also that was unlucky for people like you who did play the wild card, because you would have got about 40, 45 points off me there. And, everyone who played the wild card would have moved ahead of everybody else who took a hit to get Son in. So actually, although the wild cards were effective, they could have been even more effective had Pep kept his mouth shut. So
yeah,
it's
amazing, isn't it? Something like that can impact.
It's absolutely crazy. So let's look at the lessons learned. So we've been doing these throughout the season, and the bottom two are new, right? So I want to talk about the bottom two. Always prioritise a player likely to start rather than a rotation risk if there's a likelihood that they will come on. It sounds bleeding obvious, doesn't it? Why do I need to read that?
Yeah, I mean, I guess though, looking at it, it's one of those ones where if James had played at home to Southampton, you'd much prefer him over Dean away at Liverpool. At home to Liverpool. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I do agree. I think particularly with someone like that, when there is the chance that they could come on for 1 minute. I mean, at least with a midfielder or a forward, you're more than likely going to get 30 minutes from them or something. But the problem is with a defender, it's normally a kind of like last minute wind down the clock, or more of a desperate manoeuvre, isn't it? So
it's definitely and Martin Boyle backing me up to the hilt by saying that's FBL 101. To be honest, yeah, he's right. It is, but it's surprising. I think this is the point. People. I'm an experienced FPL manager, but it's amazing how even people who played the game a long time make fundamental errors like that. And that's the point of this show, right? I'm trying to track this stuff as we go, so that next season we can read this stuff back and go, right, hopefully we won't fall into these traps again. Because
I mean, really, James, I know he hauled you in that first game, but I think James was a bad pick from the start. And I said that from the start, because I know he's talented, I know he's good, but he was only really a consideration because Azpilicueta was out of that first game. As soon as Azpilicueta came back into the reckoning, you can't be confident enough that he's going to start.
Yeah, I've got to give it to you. You've just said Azpilicueta twice perfectly. Really well
Thank you very much.
But also, yeah, you're right about James. But the frustrating thing is, played for England, man of the match.
I know.
Played for Chelsea last night, man of the match. When he plays, he's really good. And so he was a player. I think he was just an exciting pick. And when I'm looking at defenders, I kind of look at it and think, well, I'm not going to get clean sheets. So having an exciting pick that when he plays, I get the chance of attacking returns, the same as Trent and Robertson, it's seductive, isn't it? And I fell for it. Definitely fell for it. Go on, sorry. Go on.
I was just going to say, it's funny because, you get that initial haul from him and you think, oh, I've absolutely nailed this. But then suddenly you start getting a few problems like this. You play him and he gets 1 point, Dean gets 7. Suddenly the gap of if you just picked a regular starter who gets less points in that first week, suddenly, makes it a bit less.
I might as well have had Carl Walker Peters.
Exactly. That's what I mean. Yeah, pretty much.
I know. It's a shame, but I did get a little bit cocky when he scored that goal. I was like, he's going to start every week. And he's going to get goals like that every week as well. Every week a 30-yarder. That's definitely going to happen. I was getting a bit cocky with him. And I remember seeing on Scout, someone was saying, there was a thread about it. Someone said, "Oh, why do you think Reece James is going to start? Aspilicueta is going to." Can't just said it wrong there. It's going to come straight back in. And I those moments where you nearly reply to someone with a like, "Oh, what makes you say that?" And I've done it. Yeah. I've written it out a few times on Twitter and then gone, "No, I won't do that." And I nearly did it with that as well. I nearly replied to that guy saying, "Well, actually, I think James has been impressive and will start every game." I'm glad I didn't respond because obviously it's turned out exactly as that guy said.
Sometimes I need to learn that skill.
You do.
Saying nothing. I definitely, I definitely nail my colour to the mast way too quick.
You do go in with 2 feet.
I do. Yeah. I do. Yeah. You know, it's
bit of a part of my charm. Bit of a part
of my charm.
Okay, the last lesson there is the link into the wildcards. Don't underestimate form opportunities as a reason to play the first wildcard. Now, normally I play the first wildcard when my team and the state it's in triggers it. And normally opportunities as in, oh, there's this player I could get on before anyone else, or there's this turn of fixtures. They're normally the secondary reason. I mean, is that what you would say about your approach to the wildcard?
Absolutely.
Well?
Absolutely. Yeah.
So, but Josh showed the way, right? He played it purely on the fact that he wanted to get Kane and Son and a few. He didn't have Calvert-Lewin, right? So that's another reason, obviously. So those 3 players are, good reason to play the wildcard, I guess. But he was really positive and aggressive with it. He didn't look at his team and think, I hate it. He was ranked like 300,000 in the world, I think. So he was pretty high up. But he's got up to 60k off the basis of a great wildcard. Now, I need to learn from that because I look back and think, yeah, of course I've done that in the past, but I don't know. I can't really remember. I've had successful wildcards, but I don't know if they're triggered by opportunities or whether they were triggered by my team being in the right old state. Probably the latter. And I think as well, I've taken a lot of hits this season. If we go to the great and the good, you'll see that actually
a lot of hits.
This is the great and the good league, and you see that I've taken in that second table there. I've burnt 16 points in hits, which is the most in that league.
Yeah,
and it's a lot, right? So I've taken 4 hits, and I wonder whether if I hadn't have taken as many hits, my team would be in a worse state, and therefore I might have wildcarded, and therefore I might have gotten if I'd have wildcarded, I'd have got Son and Kane, I think, right? It sounds like, in hindsight, but it would either be Werner or Kane. And I'd like to think I'd have gone Kane, but I don't know.
You wouldn't have gone for Werner.
No, I don't think so.
Don't give me
sold him the week before. No. So I might have gone, had my team been in a worse state, like if I didn't have Calvert-Lewin like Josh, I might have played it. But I took hits to keep my team up to speed, and therefore my team never looked bad enough. And maybe that's my mistake.
I think with Josh, I mean, I was, we were on the FPL show with him the other day. Well, he was on virtually, but he said, wildcarding from a position of strength.
Yeah.
And I expected to see his team and look at his team and be like, he can't sell these players. They're all brilliant. But when I looked at his team, I thought, I mean, actually, I reckon you can upgrade quite a few of these players. So it was a position of strength, I think, for his rank, because his rank was really good. But I don't think it was really. I didn't get the sense that he was selling like great players for great players and going sideways. I felt like he was still upgrading a lot.
I think he said he didn't have Calvert-Lewin. He also had Reece James, who he bought the week before. So he fell into that trap a bit later than I did, but the same trap. So he had reasons. He definitely had reasons. But I do admire him for doing it because I don't know. I didn't have a good look at his team, but maybe I would have done the same. But I don't know. It's a long shot. So I think I've got to learn that lesson for next season is, come game week 4, the international break, if my team doesn't look bad, I need to actually put more weight behind the fact that is there an opportunity to seize upon form? It's just the reason why I didn't do it. I didn't trust what I was seeing. I just didn't trust that Kane and Son would do what they did.
And it would have gone against what you were saying about West Ham putting up more of a fight. I mean, neither of us expected 3-0 after. Well, how long? I mean, it's 2-0 after about 10-15 minutes, wasn't it? I just wasn't expecting West Ham just to give them so many chances, and then it was like Spurs again. Like they just went off the boil again for another until Kane had that shot. Like sort of
second half, West Ham were fantastic, weren't they? And they got the 3 goals without Antonio there, didn't they?
Yeah,
that was the thing.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's one of the things I've said in This Much We Know. West Ham are definitely a side that can present value. I think let's talk a little bit about the great and the good here, because Late Riser deserves a nod for his big jump up the ranks. 1,874,559 places He captained Werner. He did it without a Spurs player as well.
I know.
91
Incredible.
points without a Spurs player. That is some going, isn't it?
Absolutely incredible. Yep.
Yeah. So well played, Late Riser. He's closed the gap on us. Joe is closing the gap on us, and you're closing the gap on me. Look at that, 277 to 285.
Yeah, no wildcard though.
Yeah, but I could burn it. I could waste it, couldn't I?
I hope so.
Oh, thanks so much. Looking forward to the drunken stream that I do about my wildcard.
Oh, that's going to be so sweet. That is. Yeah. That's going to be a good one.
I almost want to play it. I want to play it next week just to do that, but I'm not going to. I'm not going to get talked into that. But yeah, I went down 21,000 places, or rather 216,000 places. That's wishful thinking, and you jumped up 1 million places.
1 million yeah, my biggest ever jump.
Well, not ever but this season, yeah.
I don't know. I think it is my biggest ever jump. I don't think I've ever been somewhere where I'm I've never been 2.8 million in the world before.
Right. Okay.
So going from 2.8 to 1.8 a million places, I think it probably is my biggest ever jump.
Interesting in this league as well, Fabio Borges, who's top of the Hall of Fame on the Scout. He's top of this league as well, the great and the good, with what's he got? He's got 350 points. He's 55,000 in the world. Look at his team value. He's got the lowest team value in our league, 100 million point two. And you look at Magnus and Vila Ronka. Vila Ronka in particular, it's not like Vila Ronka to have big team value, is it? 102
He must be moving early.
Yeah. Well, he's played his wild card, as you can see there.
I'd be on 99.6 if I hadn't done those early moves.
You'd be worried about that, wouldn't you?
I'd be very worried about that.
You can barely feed the kids with that.
They're starving. Yeah. I'm still one of the lowest. I'm still second lowest.
Yeah, but I've got a watch for you now. That 7 points difference could evaporate almost immediately. It could evaporate on Friday, couldn't it? Because you got Grealish and Martinez. So
good old Martinez.
Let's look at the top 10k because you want to talk about them. Talk us through this, then, Naz.
Yep, I will do when my screen.
Oh, you're
updates.
A bit behind. Well, I think we've got the most popular.
There it goes. Yeah. Squad. So this is a template for the top 10k. So as I mentioned last week, it's still kind of in a flux a bit because there's not that many points from the people outside to the people in, but it's McCarthy and Ryan are the two most popular goalkeepers. So McCarthy, amazingly, nearly 20% ownership in the top 10k. Ryan, 15%. I'm amazed that's not Martinez.
Yeah, I mean it's going to change, isn't it?
It will do soon. Yeah. But yeah, McCarthy's still keeping Ryan at bay. I guess people are just going cheap. And then you've got Alexander-Arnold, Justin, Mitchell, Robertson, and Sace. So Justin there.
But look at Alexander-Arnold's ownership, still 38.9 in the top 10k. That's got to be in decline, though, isn't it?
Yeah. So just remember, so captains would increase.
Oh, okay. But who captained Trent? No one captained Trent, surely.
Yeah.
So it's probably fair.
Which is why Salah is then 100.74%. So. Just to reaffirm, what that means is basically if you own Salah and you haven't captained him and his ownership is over 100%, you will lose rank. In theory, in general, kind of depends on where you are, but in general, you'll lose rank.
So the midfield is Salah, Son on 79% ownership with some captains, Rodriguez on 60, probably without captains, Grealish on 30% ownership, Zaha 18.9. I was talking about Zaha last week, thinking, I'm a hipster. No one's gonna think about Zaha, but obviously with Fulham
really
coming
popular.
up,
really popular. But then you look at the next one.
Yeah,
I mean, the next one is what I really want to talk about. Kane. 118%. So just owning Kane isn't enough. If you own Kane and you don't captain him, you will lose rank if he scores. For me, I don't own Kane, so every time he scores points is literally like an arrow in the heart of my rank. It's concerning because obviously, if I want to get into the top 10k, I can't have a player like that scoring. And the trouble is, nothing indicates that he is going to stop scoring. So, yeah, it's a bit of a concern. Next to him is Calvert-Lewin, 48%. And Wilson, I was surprised with. 31. Yeah, 31.5%. So it's quite an interesting top 10Ks. There's quite a few players in there who you wouldn't necessarily
And do you think
expect.
obviously that 118% ownership was based off the captaincy in game week 5. For game week 6, do you expect Kane to pick up more captains at Burnley?
It's interesting because he's obviously going to pick up more owners, and he has picked up more owners. But I think the captaincy between him and Salah is going to be more divided. I mean, Son was the most captained player in the whole game last week, but Kane was in the top 10k. So it's going to be pretty split, I think, between Salah and Kane. But I would I'd be amazed if that effective ownership wasn't above 100% for Kane.
And just talking through the transfers in there on the top 10k, Son top on 2028, Chilwell second. Chilwell spelt wrong. Is
of
second.
course.
Then Grealish and Kane on 306. So Kane's transfers in on the top 10k wasn't that massive, but I imagine he's top now.
Yeah, I mean it's the De Bruyne. It was the De Bruyne injury, wasn't it? It was such an easy move for people to move KDB to Son. So it was, I mean, you look at that, a fifth of the top 10k moved De Bruyne to Son in theory.
Yeah, makes perfect sense, doesn't it?
Yep.
And this is the chip use, and it's quite interesting the wildcard score there, isn't it?
It is.
So 77 was the average in the top 10k.
Yeah. So what we saw was the wildcard. The wildcard in general was 72. For the top 10k, it was 77. So the top 10k played their wildcard better. Free hit score 77. Triple captain 86. So the people who triple captain did the best. So if you triple captain Kane and Son, you were laughing. And it was a week where premium picks delivered. So captain picks, sensible captain picks who sometimes blank, kind of all did well. So it was a good week to triple captain. And if you did it and you were successful with it, then hats off to you. Yeah,
and going back to the great and the good, we're talking about our captains. I mean, we've both got 84 points from our captains this season, and the top in our league is Magnus Carlsen on 118. So we're kind of in the top area of captain scores so far. And considering how badly I did with that last season, I'm quite happy with that. So that's, you happy with that? 84 points so far from your captain?
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
I hate the captaincy. It's probably the thing that just stresses me out the most each week. Yeah, I mean, again this week, I mean, if you've got Kane or Salah, I think you've got a real decision to have to make. I'm glad in a way I don't have to make that call, and I'm obviously just going to go for Salah. But yeah, I don't know who I'd go for if
yes, and I'm glad that I don't have to make that call either. Yes, that's right.
You've already.
What do you mean? Stop it! Keep the drama. Keep watching, viewer, because that might not be the case.
What is Mark's transfer?
Right, this much we know. These are some statements that I've made about the season, and after each statement, I put a percentage on them to say what I feel my certainty is for those, right? So there'll be more goals. I'm probably 75% certain of that. Would you back that up, Az?
Yeah.
You think so? Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It looks that way.
I don't think it's going to slow down at all.
No. Well, it will slow down. It has already.
Yeah, but I mean, in terms of, I don't think it's going to regress to a point where we start seeing lots of 0-0s and 1-0s. No. I think there's every week there's going to be odd results and big scores and things like that. So yeah,
I think you're right. We will get more goals. I think it will. I mean, already last game week, I think there were signs it's slowing down. We had our first 0-0, of course, and who would have thought it would be West Brom Burnley? I mean, unbelievable. I mean, no one could have predicted that. 14.95. There was. Did you see 727 people paid for that? That's it.
Was that the numbers?
Yeah, I don't know how true it was, but I saw a tweet today that said official leak, whatever that is, said that 727 people paid $14.95 for that.
That's not many, is it? Given the,
I mean, it could be rubbish, but I like to think that's true because it's quite hilarious. Not for West Brom and Burnley, no disrespect to them, but just disrespect to Sky and the Premier League for charging $14.95.
You bought the bloody Villa game.
I bought them. Yeah, all right. Shush, don't tell anyone.
You rat bag.
I did because I wanted to see Jack Grealish prancing about and doing his nutmegs and all that and getting no points for me.
So disappointed in you with that.
Yeah, I know. But when you've got Jack in your team, he's so good to watch. I reckon I'd pay $40.95 to watch him every week. I mean, he's a good player at the moment. He's flying. Right, second on the list. There will be more penalties. 100% certain. Yeah.
There's no doubt.
So we know that. Right. Now, this one's interesting because you'll be surprised at this. There will be fewer clean sheets. I'm 25% certain. And do you know why?
Why is that?
Because so far this season, we've had 22 clean sheets. Last season, at this point, we had 23. And we've had 2 fewer games this season. So far, we're only 1 clean sheet behind. And I think, although we're getting more goals, I think the goals are coming in games where teams are already winning and then they're kind of killing it off with, like Man United did at Newcastle, right? Suddenly, last 10 minutes, a couple more goals just get let in because the crowd's not there to keep Newcastle going and Newcastle just cave in, right? So there's a theory that that's why there's more goals. So in games that are close, there isn't necessarily going to be more goals. But then again, we did have 2, 3 draws, didn't we? So, I mean,
Mm.
what do you think about it? I mean, 1 fewer clean sheet so far. Is that a shock to you? You don't look shocked.
Well, I think there's going to be fewer clean sheets with Liverpool for a start, and they were probably quite a big tally of of clean sheets last year. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, if you're backing more goals, you've got to think there's going to be less clean sheets just by the fact there's going to be more goals. So unless you're backing on, you know, teams to be winning by higher margins to nil, then the two don't really go together for me. So I think there will be fewer clean sheets this season.
All right, so you would go up to 50%, would you, on that? Would you?
Yeah, I'll go up to 50%, sure.
Salah is the default captain. Now, before this week, you might have said that before game week 5. So I reckon 50%. I think he still is the go-to. But do you think he's going to get overtaken by Kane? Or do you think even Sterling or De Bruyne are going to threaten him?
So by go-to, you mean you don't really know who to captain your team?
Yeah, you go him.
You go for Salah. Yeah, I think it is. I think it is Salah. I think it is Salah because I still I don't know how many weeks I can keep saying this for. I still don't trust Spurs.
What?
Once
really?
these games. I mean, they have got an incredible run of games for the next 3.
Yeah.
They've had a really, really good run of fixtures, and you know, you take out that United game, or you look at that United game in the sense that they forgot how to defend in that game. Since the Everton match, they've had great games. I wonder what's going to happen to them when they start having trickier games, and Mourinho will start getting them to play more disciplined and more defensively.
Yeah, this is the thing. It's like the doubts we had about Spurs were the fatigue, which haven't really materialised because they've got a big squad, and they haven't had any. You know, they haven't had a Van Dijk scale injury yet, and let's hope they don't. And Mourinho's tactics. We thought, well, Mourinho wins games 1-0, he doesn't, or 2-0, he doesn't really go for the throat, does he? But they're scoring 4, 5, 6 goals. Yeah. So you don't trust it though. You still don't trust it. What will it take, Gaz?
It will take me to see them continuing to score lots of goals in tougher games. I mean, I think, you know, from when is it? It's game week 9. They've got Man City, Chelsea, Arsenal, 3 tough games there. Yeah. I mean, they're just not going to score 3 or more goals in those games. And I'm going to be put on record for that, and that's going to come back to bite me at some point.
No, it's not Eddie Nketiah. I can hardly say it now. You got away with that one. I think you'll get away. I think you're right. I think game week 9 is when people who have got 2 Tottenham players, I mean, imagine, who would have 2 Tottenham attackers, would look at Rashford or look at De Bruyne or look at Sterling at that point, because their fixtures, switch. So I think we might see some Son to Sterling or Son to De Bruyne or Son to Rashford at that point. I don't know about Kane though. I don't know.
Salah's the one player though who could have Man City, Chelsea, and Arsenal, and he would still be a consideration for my captain. I
don't know. I the way Spurs are playing and the confidence they got and the effectiveness of Kane and Son at the moment. I know. I've changed. I knew you'd say that.
You've changed your bloody tune, haven't you?
All it took is 3 goals against West Ham, and now I'm on the terraces cheering for Spurs. I've always been a Kane fan, right? So it didn't take much to win me over on him. And Son, I think, is a fantastic player. But yeah, amazing. Yeah, I know what you're saying, and I've got a tiny bit of me that says, look at this. Kane, the next one, Kane will have a season to rival his best, 50% chance, certainty. I think there's a good chance that will happen, but his best season so far is 2016-17. He got 224 points, 29 goals, 7 assists. He's got 7 assists already. What's going on?
There's no way he's going to rival that 29 goal season.
Right. That one might come back at you. I can't promise that. I can't promise that one won't come back. Let's have a look. We'll come back to this in a minute, but let's have a look at his previous seasons. So 2016-17, he got 29 goals, 7 assists. And he was, some stats here. He received a pass every 3.7 minutes, which is exactly what he's received a pass at this season so far. What's amazing, though, his minutes per goal in that season was 87.3. He scored a goal every 87.3 minutes, which is ridiculous, because that is actually beating his rate at the moment, which is 88.8. And if you think he's in form now, cast your mind back to 2016 when he was scoring every game.
He was just unbelievable that season. Just completely unbelievable.
Yeah.
I just think that the reason why I don't think he's going to match it is because I think this year he's got Bale and Son, who I think are going to eat into his
Yeah,
points. And he didn't. I don't think he had that in 2016. He had his greatest competition in that squad was Dele Alli and Ericsson,
yeah.
and a lot of their play was to set him up and to tee him up to get to that high number. Whereas Son and Bale were too selfish.
Good theory. Yeah, I like it. I mean, look at his shot accuracy as well. 53% shot accuracy. Again, better than this season. He's got 52% this season so far. Goal conversion, 20% this season, which seems high. 26%.
20. That's absolutely ridiculous.
I mean, people are saying that, I know that, the assists have got us thinking this is even an improved Kane, but you look at that season and that is ridiculous numbers, isn't it? Crazy. Yep. So I don't think he's going to have his best season ever, because I think you're right. I think that season's going to take some beating. So 29 goals probably isn't within reach, but it's I'd say at the moment 50% certainty of that. How about this one? And Son,
I think just one more thing. I don't have anything against Kane. I don't have anything against Kane this season. I don't have anything against people getting him in or anything like that. He's not like a player who I feel like I'm being really stubborn about and saying I don't think he's going to have a good season, because everything points to him having a good season. And Mourinho has put his arm around him and said, "You're my main man," and all this kind of stuff. I just think with there being so many other options, I don't see him as essential as he was in that season when there was only a handful of premium picks. You had Salah, you had him, and you probably had like Hazard, and then other ones you could come in and out of your team. I just think with the amount of options we've got this year, I don't think he's going to get close to that.
So let's put it another way then. We've said Salah is still the default captain. You don't see Kane operating on that level long term, because he's at that level at the moment. For this game week, you definitely think, well, it's Salah or Kane, it's quite close, which we'll see later. But you don't think he'll keep that up to that level?
It's a good question.
Because Werner, there are competition like Werner, but Werner's not going to reach that level, I don't think.
No, but when you look at Kane versus De Bruyne versus Sterling versus Fernandes, there's plenty of other picks around who I think could match him this season. I don't think Kane is like the standout of all of them by such a margin that I have to ignore everyone else and get him. I think he's going to have a great season. It would in no way surprise me if he got 20, 25 goals this season. But with Son also doing well, I kind of feel like I'm happy to have him, because I think he's gonna also have a good season where he could get 15, 20 goals.
Oh yeah.
I don't know. It's a really interesting one. I feel like going without him is earning me flack, because I feel
it's like you're suddenly the chairman of the anti-Harry Kane supporters club.
It does feel a bit like I'm not. Just because I haven't got him doesn't mean I don't think he's going to do well. But I also think Fernandes is good. I think De Bruyne's good too. I think still, it's a difficult one. But yeah, I would still, in any given match, if Salah and Kane had a similar fixture, I'd back Salah every time.
Yeah. No, you're vice chairman of the anti-Harry Kane sports club. Son will have his best ever FPL season.
Yeah.
75%. I think so. I mean, his best season, let me just dig this out. So I've got Son's best season, 2017-18. I was surprised how it's 12 goals, 8 assists. 12 goals, 8 assists is his best ever season. 178 points.
And he's playing up front for a fair bit of that.
He's going to trounce that. He's going to hit 200 points, I think. Yeah. Even with Bale there as a added to the equation, I think Son will beat 12 goals and 8 assists. What's he got at the moment? 7 goals? He'll have 12 goals by Christmas.
Yeah.
Crazy.
I completely agree.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so these are all good so far. Calvert-Lewin is a potential season keeper, right? Now, I wouldn't have said that at the start of the season, but it's looking that way. I would say 50% certainty. You're shaking your head. No, you don't agree?
No, I'm shaking my head as in I wouldn't have said it at the start of the season. I think he is. I'd probably say more than 50%. I'd probably maybe go even up to 75%.
Legit.
I mean, the difficulty is, people have got so much value tied up in him now that he's going to have to really go off the boil to make people consider selling him. And I just don't really see. I mean, when you've got like Richarlison and Rodriguez and Dean putting the balls in for him, and given that he's now adapted his game to the point where he's so good at getting those headers and poaching and all that kind of stuff, why his rate might slow down, but there's no reason why he can't keep it. It's only like 7.58 million. He's going to be best value.
There's still question marks about his composure, but obviously if he's scoring for one touch finishes, that doesn't necessarily come into it. And and that's what he's doing with his head and his feet and his elbow and his backside. I think he scored with most parts of his body this season. But yeah, can't knock him. Looks that way. Rodriguez represents great value. I mean, maybe I should have put more than 50% on this. I mean, he certainly does at the moment, doesn't he?
Yeah, of course he does. Yeah, I mean, he's just going to keep ticking over all season. I wonder how many like massive hauls he's got in him.
Yeah.
But I think I mean he's the same price. Well, he's a little bit cheaper than Pulisic, and I'm looking at Pulisic and thinking, taking a bit of a punt on him when I could have Rodriguez, who is kind of proving that he's doing it week in, week out.
Yeah.
I think he's a great option, and I think if you're backing Everton to do well this season, you need to double up because you're not going to get enough out of just having Calvert-Lewin because everyone's got him.
Yeah. I hadn't thought of it like that. It does look that way. I mean, I'm on Grealish at the moment. He's next there. Grealish is kicked on as a fantasy asset at 50%. I think that's about right at the moment, but we need to give him more time before we're convinced on that. I look at Grealish and think he could outscore Rodriguez. But at the moment...
Do you want some stats on Grealish?
I do. There's only 1 point in it at the moment. Rodriguez has got 1 point more, I think, and he's played one more match than Grealish. But obviously, Grealish has got the outlier that is Liverpool, and but you can't completely throw that out. But go on. It's almost as if you've done some research on Grealish this week.
Well, if there's any members of Fantasy Scout, they might have seen the article I wrote earlier on Villa. If you're not a member of Fantasy Scout, there's a link in the description. I suggest you sign up because the members area is fantastic. And actually, writing this article was really interesting. And I've got some other things I'm going to bring out from it. But there's some absolute. I was looking at Grealish, and I was actually writing it to try and make a case for Barkley because he scored that goal, and I thought he's cheaper and all that. And I was looking at Grealish's stats, and they're so ridiculous that, like, I honestly think you have to get him. I think you have to get him in your team at 7.2 million before his price absolutely skyrockets. No player in the league has had more touches in the penalty area than Grealish over the last 4 games.
Yeah, not even strikers. That is crazy.
Not even strikers. So he's had more than Sterling, Salah, Mane, Kane, all the strikers. No player has created more chances over the last 4 games than Grealish. So Fernandes, Salah, De Bruyne, it's absolutely insane. His baseline bonus is amazing. So he's going to be in the bonus as soon as he gets any returns.
Well, it's going to be like De Bruyne, isn't it? 1 assist is all you need.
1 assist
bonus,
and he's going to be getting them. And that's it. And looking at Villa's attacking stats, so their defensive stats, I was a little bit sort of not surprised with, but their defensive numbers, apart from their expected goals conceded, which is low, but they've had more shots conceded in the penalty area than teams like Southampton, Chelsea, Burnley, teams who are struggling a bit more. They've actually had more shots against them in dangerous positions. So I do think the clean sheets might potentially dry up. But attacking numbers, I mean, their goal conversion is high. So immediately I'm thinking, if their goal conversion is high, maybe that's going to regress.
Yeah.
But their attempts is high as well because they're scoring goals. So they're having attempts, lots of attempts, and they're converting them as well.
But we do need more time because the Liverpool game in there has skewed it. Right? Anyone who plays Liverpool is going to have like loads of shots and stuff, aren't they? Right? It's just crazy, isn't it? But yeah, I think we've got to. I think I've gone 50% on Grealish because I own him and don't want to be accused of bias, but also because we need more time because of that Liverpool game. But every game now, like when Friday night against Leeds, I'm expecting a return, and that wasn't the case with Grealish last year. But I think he has gone up a level. There's no doubt about it. And that stat, the one about touches in the box, that's significant because he just knows, like, I'm going to take it into the box where they can't touch me. I'm going to bring defenders to me and I'm going to lay it off, and that's what he's doing a lot. Or he's cutting inside and curling it inside the far post, which is his favourite. His preferred move in Football Manager, I imagine. It's a recipe for success, you'd think. But
when you fix. Oh, sorry, no, go on.
No, just with Rodriguez there, that's the problem. Is it one or the other?
Yeah. I mean, just to answer someone in the chat. So Fix Ferry says, why Grealish when Barkley's even cheaper and more explosive? I mean, it's a good question. And just some numbers on over the last 2, because obviously Barkley only played in 2. But Barkley has bettered Grealish for shots in the box, 5-3. But when it comes down to the other stats, so less touch in the penalty area, 11-17, and 1 chance created versus 9.
Yeah, that's the big gap.
It's just everything's going through Grealish. I think there is a case for doubling up. If you need the money and you're wondering how to get Kane and you're looking at players to downgrade, or you've got someone like Podence,
Imagine
who would do that. I think the double up could be viable, because I think Barkley is a strong option in his own right. But I'm looking. I feel a bit like I did about Antonio last season, just before he got that massive haul. And it's interesting that Grealish has already had that massive haul, but I feel like another one's coming at some point.
Yeah, and the things about Barkley, he was playing slightly deeper. McGinn got further forward against Leicester, so they kind of swapped roles. But Barkley still got the goal. So
yeah.
Anyway, Robertson will get more attacking returns this season. Yes, what do you reckon? You
yeah, I
agree
mean,
with
he's playing like a winger. He's not even playing like a winger. He's playing like a really dangerous attacking winger. His heat map is unbelievable. They're just looking to get the play down that side so much.
I don't know what's behind that. People, like Joe was saying, it's because Mane can track back, so therefore Robertson has that license to get forward. But that was the case last season. He's doing it more than last season. I wonder whether it's just because sides have worked them out that it's all coming through Alexander-Arnold, so therefore I'm going to switch the emphasis to the left and do it through Robertson. Whether it's a Klopp thing. But the next one, Alexander-Arnold without the hyphen, will get fewer attacking returns. Now, I've only got it at 25% because I think it's too early to write him off, but it does look that way, doesn't it?
I think he probably will, because he's lost some corners, right? Was he taking the corners on the left last year?
He's taken some corners still.
He was taking the ones on the left last season. Was he taking both sides or just the right? I can't even remember.
Don't know. I think he was taking both sides a lot of the time, because I remember watching him run, either side. Well, I owned him a lot last year, and I'm sure he did.
I mean, 15 assists and 4 goals is unbelievable, really, for a defender. It'd be interesting to know what happens with. We keep mentioning Van Dijk being out. You don't want to talk about it, but it's happened. You've got your double Liverpool defence.
I'll talk
you
about
have to face it.
I'll talk about it when it gets to my team. Yeah, I know. Well, it's the next one. Look, Liverpool's defence will not match last season's clean sheet tally.
No way.
15 last season.
I mean, I can't believe you've got 50% on that. There's absolutely no way they're going to match their clean sheet tally last year. I mean, already they haven't looked good since lockdown or Project Restart happened. Then they lost Alisson for a bit, proving again that they can't cope when he's injured. And now they've lost Van Dijk for the whole season. Absolutely 0% chance they keep it.
So you reckon 100% certainty they won't get 15 clean sheets?
Absolutely no way. Not a chance.
They got 21 the season before that, 15 was a regression. So what, they're going to go down to what, 12? 10? I mean, if you're saying they're going to get 10 clean sheets, they're not going to win the league. I wouldn't have thought.
Well, I don't think they are going to win the league now.
Right, okay, so you're saying that as well. Blimey, that's Harry Kane you've written off, and Liverpool's chances.
Losing Van Dijk is a bigger blow than City losing Laporte last year for them, because they're just going to struggle like so much. I mean, City's replacements weren't great, but they had Fabinho who went in, and then they had they still had good midfield players who could cover some of it. But Liverpool, I mean, if they move Fabinho back, they lose such a massive part of that.
Well,
midfield.
I think that's what they're going to do, because Van Dijk, what he brings there, not only defensive solidity, but the passing, right? His ability to switch play to right and left to Robertson and Alexander-Arnold with one pass is important to their tactics. So Fabinho could do that, whereas your Matip is not going to do that. I did think Matip, when he played last season, or the season before last as well, had some decent games, but he's just never fit enough either, is he? So I've got it at 50%. You think I should have it at 100%? Right at the top, 100%.
I think that would be the one of all of these that I'd be most certain about.
Right.
I mean, there's lots of people in the chat saying, "Oh, they kept a clean sheet tonight in the Champions League." Yeah, fair enough.
There you go. I'm not.
But
where's those straws I was clutching at earlier? Oh, let's find them. Yeah, I know. You're probably right. Okay, let's get through this. Nearly there. Villa have the must-own defence at the moment. That looks that way. I've got it at 25% certainty. Do you think at the end of the season we're going to go? No, you don't. No, you've got some data on this, haven't you?
Yeah, well, not based on the research that I did. So, as I said a minute ago, I wasn't that impressed by the defensive numbers of Villa. So, do you know who's had? I don't know if you've seen my article. Do you know who's had the least amount of shots conceded in the box this season?
Brighton and Hove Albion.
I was absolutely amazed when I read that. 2 errors with one leading to a goal. So they're not making that many mistakes, but it feels like they are still weak from set plays. So I am concerned about that. But in terms of like generally from open play, they are statistically the best defensive team in the league, and they've played Everton, Chelsea, and United. So it's quite encouraging. Second is West Ham, which is even more remarkable when you consider the games they've had. Then you've got Liverpool, fine. Then you've got Spurs and Chelsea. So again, two teams who are conceding a lot of goals, but the stats indicate that defensive resilience could be coming and they could start doing better. Then you've got Southampton, Arsenal, Burnley, Everton, Man City, and then Villa. So just below Villa is Fulham.
So you think Martinez's run of clean sheets will come to an end? And
I think it's inevitable. I think, I don't think Villa are going to be the team that keeps the most clean sheets in the league. And I think, we are going to start. I think they're capable of keeping clean sheets. We've seen it, but I don't think Martinez is going to be getting 9 points every week.
Okay.
I think they're good value. I think, players like Konsa I like the look of, and Martinez are good. And I think having one is sensible, but I'm not sure it's, that essential to.
No, well, I had it at 25%. I'm not certain yet, but that's probably what we would say at the moment. Last three, De Bruyne will struggle to match last season's tally. Pretty controversial given we're so early on and De Bruyne has had the injury. We don't know how long he's going to be out for. We presume he'll be back in a couple of weeks, right? Is he going to get what he did last season? I would say unlikely because it was such an outstanding season. Would you back that up? Oh, you're hesitant.
I don't know. I mean, I've seen from what I've seen of him so far, apart from that Wolves game, he has been operating in a more withdrawn role I remember a few games where he was asked to kind of like, drop back and help dictate things from the centre. But he's done it in the two games that I've seen in both the Leicester and the Leeds game. He's not. I remember seeing him in one of the first few games last season, and he was literally sprinting to the penalty area. And I was like, I've never seen De Bruyne do this before. I've got to get him in. Whereas now I'm watching him again, and I'm thinking he's being more like the old De Bruyne, where he's happy to sit back and spray passes and things like that. So I think it depends on if that changes. I mean, 13 goals, 23 assists is a massive tally to try and get near again. I mean, he hasn't been anywhere near that really. I suppose maybe a bit harsh. I mean, his best season apart from that was probably 16-17, same as Kane. We got 6 goals and 21 assists. It was adding the goals to his game.
Well, it was penalties, wasn't it?
And a lot of that came from penalties, exactly. So
he's
I think
he's not going to get many penalties this year. Let's face it.
Oh no, there's no penalties this year. No, I think he's on for another 200 points, but to get to 251 is probably quite a lot.
Okay, and the penultimate one, West Ham are a source of value, 25%. I mean, I would say that's the case now, and I'm pretty confident that they'll go on providing value. What do you feel about West Ham?
You're only 25%.
Well, yeah, pretty confident. Yeah, okay, a little bit confident then. I wanted to give it 50, but I thought 25 would be a bit more controversial, maybe. But
I think I'd go for a 50%.
Would you? Yeah.
I think there is sources of value. I think you've got Masuaku at 4.5. You've got Ben Rama at 6, who could be good, and Bowen as well. Is he 6 or 6.5?
6.5, 6.3. He's gone down.
6.3.
He's gone down 0.2. Yeah,
it's a good price. And then you've got Antonio, who I think has the potential to be one of the best value picks in the game.
Okay, and lastly, whipping boys: Fulham, West Brom, Burnley. What do you think? Fulham and West Brom, but Burnley as well?
Absolutely.
Do you?
Could not have said it better myself.
You think those three?
I do.
Yeah. It looks that way.
Burnley's defensive numbers aren't bad. And Pope showed again why he is just such an amazing keeper and why I think he should be England's number one, really. In that West Brom game, some of the saves he made. I mean, I think he made a triple save in like the space of about 2 or 3 seconds in that match. But Burnley just haven't strengthened, and I think that's got to play on the mind of the players that, when you're signing Dale Stevens to strengthen your team.
I don't think many Dale Stevens shirts got sold in the merchant
he's
shop.
He's not the most exciting pick, but yeah, I just can't see Burnley keeping as many clean sheets as they did last season, and having Tarkowski and me injured hasn't helped. They need to get them back quickly.
Is it Tarkowski or Tarkovsky? Because I always used to say Tarkowski. Hey, Tarkowski sounds like a New York cop, doesn't it?
I think you're probably right. It's Tarkovsky, isn't
Tarkovsky,
it?
I think. You said it on the FBL show, and I half expected James to correct you like he used to me, but he didn't. probably because he was being polite to you, whereas for me, he just didn't care.
Yeah, he just didn't care. Yeah,
didn't care at all. Okay, so you agree with most of those. Interesting. We'll track that as we go. We'll see how that goes and see if we add any. Let's look at some team data. Let's look at attack. We've talked a bit about this as well. I'll pick some things out here. Spurs, right? You don't think they're going to last, maybe. You don't trust them. Right at the top low for minutes per XG at the moment. Expected goal every 42 minutes right now. You know, it's good. I mean, it's crazy. They're not top as it hands because there's Liverpool there in 39.4. So it's those two right now way out in front. Everton 47.9 and West Ham 50.3 are up there. But it's Spurs. I mean, I just don't believe a Mourinho side could be topping these stats. They've had the XG non-penalty, they're top for that, 10.6. You know, it's so surprising to see them up there. But then you look down the bottom, look at that XG non-penalty stat down there. And the teams at the bottom, you look at West Brom, Crystal Palace, Burnley and Fulham. We just talked about the whipping boys. And in terms of goal scoring, if we're looking for clean sheets, it's those four sides and maybe Sheffield United as well, who have got 3.6 XG non-penalty so far. Those five teams look to be struggling for goals.
Yeah.
And then above them, what's interesting is Man United, 3.7 XG non-penalty, and Wolves, 4.1, Leicester, 4.2. Wolves and Leicester, who at the start of the season you'd think would be pushing for top four, at the moment, struggling.
Yeah.
What did you make of Wolves' performance at Leeds?
Well, I think they were lucky to have the chance in the second half to kind of turn things around, because I thought Leeds were absolutely fantastic. And it's not really that surprising because we've seen Leeds how quick. I mean, it's just how quick they play, how quickly they get from the back to up front.
Their transitions and their passing, lightning, isn't it?
It's absolutely brilliant. Yeah, I mean, losing Phillips for 6 weeks, I think I saw today, is big for them because he does all the kind of the dirty work. And we've got our new mate,
the Belgian
Struijk,
very good, Struijk.
And I think I've got the pronunciation of that right because I looked it up. Who's a 4 million defender who's potentially going to be playing in defensive mid role. So that's going to be interesting to see how he adapts. But yeah, I think Leeds are going to cause problems for everyone. So I don't think it's that much. You can't really put that much on Wolves to say, they struggled a lot in that game, because they did eventually get their, get into the game and play well.
But the gap between the midfield and or the defence and the forward line, Jimenez seems isolated, and the midfield don't seem to be carrying the ball. Nothing's coming through Mourinho. Neves didn't play. Montino, rather. Neves didn't play. The Wolves midfield just doesn't look like it's functioning at the moment. Like, they're not. I don't know if they're playing differently and they're playing more direct and they're using Podence and Neto's pace more. But I watched them again and again. I wasn't impressed. They didn't look like they had a pattern of play. Didn't have a flow to them. And they got Newcastle this week, which looks like a good fixture. But they're going to play the low block. They're going to sit in deep. I think Wolves might struggle to break them down, but we'll see.
They're a better team with Traore in the team, no matter where he plays, whether he's at right wing back. I mean, Semedo had a pretty poor game. I think he did, like I said yesterday, he did enough to kind of limit the threat, but he looked shaky at times and wasn't getting forward because he couldn't, because of Eiling and I think is it Costa on that side, sort of going at him. So yeah, he did enough, but he doesn't look the best kind of defender. I think he's going to have more reign to go forward against Newcastle and Palace, which is good for me as an owner. But I think they just need to play Traore from the start, because he just gives them.
Did you see? Traore's got that thing where he has his arms
Vaseline.
He has baby oil put on them. Well, he was having that applied. And the commentary team were obviously completely oblivious to this. And they were like going, I don't know why Traore was having his forearms massaged before coming.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I thought it was common knowledge.
I know, exactly. It's like, if you work in football, little tidbits like that you can bring into your commentary, surely you feed off that, right? But the commentator, I can't remember who it was, didn't know. And I was like, I was imagining the producer in his ear going, it's baby oil to stop them grabbing his arms. But they didn't correct it. But
well, if there's a spot going, feel free to give us a call.
Absolutely. As will be there with his Harry Kane hating comments. Yeah, there he is. Let's look at team defence now. So there's your Villa at the top there. XG conceded non-penalty, 3.3. Right at the top with Brighton, your boys. As you mentioned, surprising to see the Brighton defence up there. Why is it they haven't returned in? What's gone wrong so far?
We just make mistakes. We just make mistakes. I mean, we make mistakes from set pieces. We don't mark players tight enough. I mean, the penalty against Palace, don't even get me started about that. If that's a penalty, then I just
He had
can't.
his arms on him, didn't he? He had his arm,
I mean, if Lamptey is strong enough to bring down Batshuayi, then Batshuayi needs to hit the gym, because there is absolutely no way that Lamptey could have put enough power, enough force in that to have brought Batshuayi down. It's just an absolute joke. You'd be giving like 10. I mean, they're already giving 10 penalties a game. You're giving 20 penalties a game if you're giving that as a penalty. I was livid because Brighton was so, and this is the problem. And I think Luke pointed out in our chat, and I hadn't thought about it, but I'm thinking about it now, is that this is what happens with Brighton. We are so on top of teams for large periods of games. We concede a goal like that, and we don't even fall apart. But in the final third, we fall apart. We just forget how to do simple things. I mean, look at Maupay. I mean, did you see him when he got the ball through on goal and he's right-footed? He could have just shot.
Yeah.
And instead, he tried to take it on his left where there was 2 players already there, and they just took the ball off him.
I did think of you at that time. I was really quite upset for you. Yeah.
I was, chucking stuff across the room. I mean, that game, I can't remember watching a more frustrating game as a Brighton fan than that match. It was just...
I could tell by the language in WhatsApp. You were quite frustrated.
I was just absolutely livid. It was just such a frustrating game, the penalty and that. So, yeah, and I think the confidence goes. I think we look great, and I think on our day we can beat anyone. I think we can beat anyone comfortably. I genuinely think that. I think we've got such a good style and really talented players, but there's something wrong with the mentality of that Brighton team.
Well, the difference between your expected goals conceded non-penalty and your actual goals conceded non-penalty is the biggest in the division, 7.7. You notice as well, Liverpool is the next biggest on 7.3. Clearly, that's the Villa result where the goals were just low XG and they just kept going in. So, Brighton were expected to concede fewer goals by now. So it could be that they turn. And it's quite interesting for Lamptey owners, for people who are maybe getting off Ryan, that they could still be an option for us back there. What's interesting as well down there, looking at Wolves' attack in the previous conversation, their defence isn't great. Expected goals conceded non-penalty, 6.5. It's not bottom, but it's not far off.
I
know. So, they're not impressed back to front yet, have they? Which is strange.
No. And we've seen there's been huge changes in their defence. I mean, we had a couple of questions in the chat about Kilman and do we think he'll play. I mean, he was never even a factor in the conversation a few weeks ago. No one thought Marçal was going to play. Everyone thought Vinagre was going to be in, and then he's out. You've got Semedo coming in over Doherty. It's and Say's playing at left wing back, and it's all kind of in flux. You never know who's going to play one week to the next. So I do think Kilman's going to keep his place for now because he put in a man of the match performance. I don't know what's going to happen with Says, whether he will switch back to Marçal or stick with Says. I think he'll probably stick with Says.
There's panic in the FPL ranks that Saïs could get dropped, isn't there?
Yeah.
And there's quite a few people liking to stir that up, but I don't see it. I think Saïs is... I think Nuno likes him, so I don't see it. But Kilman, new contract today, I see. Just to add more fuel to the fire. Minutes per chance conceded. Brighton are top of that, 13.8 minutes per chance conceded, which, another endorsement for the Seagulls defence. Southampton second, 11.9 minutes per chance conceded. And then it's the watertight clean sheet machine that is Liverpool on 10.8, which, just another straw for me to clutch at, that perhaps they're not going to be so awful. You don't buy it, no. It's not doing any good at all, is it? Never mind. Worth a try. Let's look at our watch list and let's look at defence, because Kilman's in this. I'm just trying to see if I can spot any spelling errors. I'm sure there's some there. Castagna spelt correctly this time. Chilwell was spelt with one. Yes, perfect. So this is
just refreshed. I'll have a look.
This is Az's defensive watch list and mine. You see on the screen. And for podcast listeners, tough. We're not going to go through the entire list, but we're going to pick out some players that interest us. That's the point of this. You've got Mendy and Meslier as new additions to your goalkeeper ranks. Tell us about them.
Yeah, well, Mendy's 5 million, and I don't trust Chelsea at the moment to start keeping clean sheets, but the defensive stats are good. And I do wonder if if they can get a settled partnership with Silva playing most games and Zuma and then Mendy, there is potential that the clean sheets could start coming. And then I think, if I've got Martinez and I've paid 4.7 for him anyway, so he's almost like a kind of 5 million defender. There may be an opportunity in the future to shift over to him fairly easily if I wanted to. I'm not saying I will, but there could be. Meslier, I've added him because there's equally as I might want to go up to a 5 million goalkeeper, I might also want to go down to a 4.5 goalkeeper to save a bit of money. And really, I think I'm just not a fan of McCarthy at all. I just think he's crap.
Harsh. Another player.
I'm astounded that he has managed to keep his place in that Southampton side.
He's a good shot stopper, McCarthy, I think. But...
He's all right. I'm not a fan.
Okay, so here's a question.
I'm thinking 4.5, Meslier and Ryan, I think.
Martinez goes up to 5 million, which probably will happen soon. If you didn't have Martinez and you were shopping for a keeper, would you spend 5 million on him, or would you go to another 5 million keeper like Gaeta or something like that?
I think at the moment I'd probably stick with Martinez.
Right.
But yeah, it's a good question. I think once he gets to 5, it is a difficult decision to make. I think if he got to 5 and I didn't have him, I'd be going down to 4.5, to be honest. I don't like to spend a lot of money on a goalkeeper. I think 4.7, 4.8 probably is the most I'd feel comfortable paying, unless someone like Mendy did start keeping clean sheets and and had a good run of games or something like that. So no is the answer. I think I'd probably stick with.
I want to get onto my defenders because I've put Target in there, the Villa defender who's on set pieces, who is a bit slow but gets forward a bit. He seems to get forward more in terms of the heat map than Matty Cash on the other side. There was someone wrote an article about Villa.
If only you could remember.
Don't know who it was. Slipped my mind who it was, but they pointed out that Target gets forward a lot on that side.
He does. Yeah.
And I've got him there because I'm maybe thinking Martinez, by the time I get round to getting him, will be beyond me. It'll be over 5 million. So that's why I've got Target in there. I've got that Leeds defender that only you can pronounce, Struijk, because he is going to play 4 or 5 games while Phillips is out, and he's going to play in midfield, and he's 4 million. But of course, the other player we should talk about is Kilman. And actually, there's a James Richardson in the chat. I don't know if it's the James Richardson, because I mentioned him earlier. And he's saying, how can you drop Kilman? So he certainly feels that for 4 million, this lad Kilman, who's just signed a new 5-year deal, is the real, is the real deal. He's going to be a 4 million option for. He's 4.1 now, went up last night. I've got to look at him, I think, because I've got, Reece James to get rid of. And if I get some cash out of that Reece James and go down to Kilman, I can then look at going Podence to someone like, let's go into midfield, someone like Bowen of West Ham, who I've highlighted here in my midfield list. I think that West Ham are a team I want to get on. It's either going to be Antonio up front or it's going to be Bowen in midfield. Either way, I've got to get James out to a budget defender. So I think Kilman is a reasonable bet to stay. Where would you say you are on that? Give me a percentage on Kilman staying in the team long term.
25%.
Okay.
The usual thing. I think if you've got Mitchell, it's a no-go. I don't think you can have a defence with Kilman and Mitchell, because I think you need at least one benchable one defender that can come off your bench.
Yeah.
Because if Kilman and Mitchell both lose their spots and one of your starting defenders doesn't play, you have no one coming off the bench. You don't have Mitchell, do you? So I think you're in a You're kind of thinking about Kilman over Mitchell, and I think if I was wildcarding this week, I think I would definitely go for Kilman. Right. I know Lee from FPL Family did that and has got Kilman in
and left him on his bench.
Didn't have that much faith in him. So yeah, I think Kilman is probably a good option. I mean, I would still rather have Struijk.
Very good. Would you? This is the question, because Struijk is certain to start the next 4 or 5 games.
Yeah, exactly.
And you would go with that, would you?
I think so. I mean, I think what I try and look at for someone like Kilman is, what do I believe is Wolves' strongest defence? And their strongest defence, I think, doesn't have Saïs at left wing back. It has Marçal at left wing back, Saïs, Bolly, Cody, Semedo. So Kilman isn't there. Whereas I think with Struijk, he could make it. He could in theory. I think he's got more of a chance of having a good 6-week period.
Yeah.
And getting into that team more long term. So that would be my logic for there. Plus, he's out of position as well. I mean, out of position for defensive mid not sure how effective that will be for FPL teams, but I still think it's a decent punt.
For me, it's the assured starts. But then I've got to look at how often I'm going to use that defender anyway. I've got Ayling already as well, so do I want 2 Leeds defenders? Don't know. You've highlighted Pereira here of Leicester. Not fit yet, but he's someone you want to keep an eye on.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think you took him out of your watch list this week because they've lost Soyuncu.
Yeah.
But I mean, they have signed that new Fofana. Fofana. I hate pronouncing
19-year-old.
I'll never mock Merson again. I don't think it's not easy. So yeah, it's a wait and see. I mean, it's a watch list because I think it's a wait and see. I don't think Soyuncu out is gonna have the same effect as like Van Dijk out for Liverpool. I think at least they have got some players who can come in and do a good job for them. And I think Pereira is just quality. So as soon as he's back, I think today it's going to be about another 6 weeks till he's back. But once he is back in the team and he might be an option, maybe. He's a lot of money though, so
yeah,
it'll be a wait and see.
I just don't trust him with Soyuncu out, and don't beat yourself up about comparison with Merson because you're not paid $2 million a year by Sky, are you? So there you go.
Yeah, I'm not paid $2 million by Fantasy Sky.
No, that's for true. Let's have a look at watch this midfield. I'm sure he's not paid $2 million.
Just one more player on the defensive list you did mention is Telles.
Yeah. Go on. What did you make of his debut?
I mean, what I liked about his debut was his corners. I mean, his corners, I don't know if you saw them, they're so fast. They are going to cause teams a lot of problems, I think. And I think that does have an impact on Bruno as well, because it's taking away a potential source of points for him.
Yeah.
Be interesting to know as well whether he takes over some free kicks as well. I don't think Bruno's going to be too happy about giving those up, but he might not have much of a choice. But yeah, I'm looking at Semedo's run of good games comes to an end just as United get quite good again. So if Telles can impress me over the next couple, then that might be a switch.
Yeah, I mean, if I'm going to downgrade my Liverpool defenders, because I've heard that they're less likely to keep clean sheets, Telles could be an option. I'm having a United defender for 5.5 though. Don't know.
Yeah, it's a lot of money. But if he's got the set pieces, then I think
that's what I want. I want some attacking promise. So in my midfield, I've highlighted Lookman. I'm frustrated because I should have picked him out as a different. I should have shouted more about him because he scored, didn't he? Got a good goal.
Yeah. You mentioned him. You definitely mentioned him last week. You said to keep an eye on him.
I should have made more of it. But I did mention him. And Mata as well. I was surprised to see his performance at Newcastle, weren't you? I mean, he looked like he was rolling back the years again.
I mean, come on! I saw your list. I thought surely he's having a laugh with bloody Juan Mata on the list. I mean, you wouldn't seriously ever consider getting in Juan Mata.
Well, Kane's back in the team. Let's get Mata in there as well. Let's go right back to 1995. Yeah, I know. Yeah, fair enough.
You've got Walcott in there as well. You've got loads of.
I do love a nostalgia pick. Yeah. Okay, what about
highlighted him as well?
I know, just to wind you up. So we both got Ben Rama. I mean, if Ben Rama does what he did for Brentford, he could be the pick there in that because he's 6 million. But at the moment, I look at Bowen at 6.3 and think Bowen's got the goals, and I really fancy Bowen actually for their fixture turn. If I stick with 2 up front and Brewster, I will go Bowen. I think, but Ben Rama might do enough to change my mind. So you know a bit about him, do you? You've seen him in the Championship.
No, I've seen a few games of him. I know that he's a really, really exciting player. I think he looks to me like a player who's going to adapt quickly to the Premier League. I think West Ham have got a really good deal with him. I agree with what you say about Bowen though. I think Bowen has shown since he signed. So this isn't just this season. He was also showing it, I think, when he signed in January that he can terrorise defences as well. So I'm looking at Ben Rama and Bowen and Antonio. I'm thinking that's a really good. I mean, I presume I don't know where Fornals is going to fit in there, but it's interesting. Bowen, you don't look at him and think he's not pacey, he's not strong, he's technically quite good. He's just good at everything enough where he can cut, but he's beginning to settle in the Premier League. You can just see it about him now, where he's getting more confident and the stuff. I don't think he's shown his game yet. I mean, I saw some of him playing for Hull and he was absolutely outstanding in the Championship. And when he came up to the Premier League, I didn't think he hit the ground running, but I'm starting to see flashes now of him doing some of the things he did in the Championship, getting a bit of arrogance in his play, and his finishing is top drawer.
So I think 6-3. Paul McKinnon, just a shout out to him. He had him at the start of the season, held on to him through his drops and got the 3 goals. So fair play, Paul. And he was probably tipping him on the Premier League site and getting ridiculed for it, but not anymore. And up front, we haven't highlighted any of these really. I've got on my watch list Watkins, Malpay, Bamford, Wilson, Ings and Antonio, with the idea that Antonio's probably the most likely to get into my team. Should I go to 3 up front? You've got Watkins, Richarlison still there. Aguero, Wilson, Brewster, eh? Ings, Kane. You reckon Kane's a good player? Jimenez and Antonio. So who's most likely at that watch list to come into your team?
Oh, that's a very good question. I mean, Antonio, I really like the look of from Gameweek 8.
Yeah, we talk about him a lot, don't we?
We do. We've been pushing him a lot. I do think a West Ham player in some description will be coming into my team that way. Kane, I mean, Kane is potentially there. I mean, I'm not completely writing him off. It might be that this week does force my hand if he again, gets another sort of 17, 18 point haul. I mean, in a way, it's worth it just for the value. You play like that, hitting those quotes again, you can get another 0.2, 0.3 of value of him. So he's not completely written out, and it'd be easy for me to do with 2 transfers. I mean, Aguero is tempting, I have to admit.
Right.
It would if it was a few weeks down the line, I would be kind of saying I'd go for Aguero over Kane, but I think it would be Kane that came in before Aguero. But I think Aguero is a great difference. I mean, I think it's like 1.9% owned or something like that.
Yeah.
Absolutely crazy. So if you're looking for a differential, I think he's the ultimate.
I just don't know about his fitness. Obviously, he's going to get a clear run with Jesus out for months, as Pep said. But he's going to have to be protected because he's their only striker. And we've seen already City have suggested that they will struggle if they don't have a fit striker. So I wonder, he went off after 60 minutes in the game at the weekend. So I want to see a bit more of him to see if he's a viable switch from Kane. It'll take a lot, I think. But
especially for you.
Yes, because once I've got Kane, there's no looking back. We'll never have time to go all through these in detail. So let's just pick out some. We'll talk about Villa Leeds though, because that's a Friday kickoff. I don't normally like a Friday kickoff, but I quite fancy this one. And it's free. We haven't got to pay for it. What do you reckon? It's a good game, isn't it?
I think it is a good game, but I think it's a Villa win in this one. And I think that Phillips news is a real blow for them, because I think he would have been able to have done a good job, I think, on Grealish and to got him, to stop him.
He'd have done a job of some description on Grealish, I imagine.
I don't want to say exactly what that job would have been, but I imagine it would have been lots of kicked calves. Although they probably made of metal, so probably wouldn't have hurt him. Yeah. But yeah, I think with Phillips out, I think it's Villa's to win.
Yeah. Okay.
But I will say, based on my stats, if you've got Helder Costa, bearing in mind Villa concede a lot of chances down that side. If you've got Helder Costa, I'd be confident of something.
Costa's pace against target. Okay. West Ham City, normally that's a rout for City, and normally Sterling goes to town. He got a hat-trick on day 1 last season, which persuaded me to keep him for the entire season and ignore Kevin De Bruyne. So what about this time?
I think City will win it.
Yeah.
I think with Aguero back, it just gives them having a strike and a focal point. It's just such a big deal for them. So yeah, I think West Ham's run will come to an end here.
Not easy. I don't think it's going to be a rout.
No, I don't think it'll be easy.
West Ham might get one. Antonio's always a bet to score against anyone. I'll go 2-1. I think City will win though. Yeah.
I'll go 3-1.
Fulham Palace. We won't waste too much time on that one.
God.
Could be another 0-0, couldn't it? Could be.
Palace XG from open play in that game.
Well, they had one shot. They had one shot on goal. That was the penalty. I couldn't believe that.
Pathetic side.
I mean, that's why Brighton's defensive stats are so good, because that Palace game, like the Liverpool Villa game, it's an outlier the other way. I mean, to have one shot in a home game and that to be a penalty. It wasn't just one shot on target; it was one shot.
I know. I watched it. It was a joke. It was an absolute joke. I think the only interesting thing about that game is I think it's going to be Mitchell out. I think Van Aanholt is back in for that game, and that is the end of Mitchell. That's my prediction.
Yeah, Joe went too early with his differential, but
yeah. Well, he has got 4 games. He's got 4 games.
Oh, I see. Oh, he'll be all right then. United Chelsea.
Oh, that's going to be exciting, isn't it?
A couple of minnows clashing at Old Trafford. Yeah, 1-1, I think. That's a popular score for you.
Oh, here we go. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to this game. I mean, United have picked up some form now. Winning against PSG is pretty amazing. Especially when I saw the lineup and I saw five at the back with
Chunzabi, he played
and Shaw.
very well, didn't he?
I know, he was absolutely fantastic.
4.5 defender, I think.
Yeah, I think there's goals in it. I think it could be 2.
Oh. Liverpool, Sheffield United. That's obviously going to be a clean sheet, but how many are Liverpool going to win by?
I think it could be fairly nasty. I think 3 or 4-0 Liverpool.
Do you think so? Are you that much down on Chris Wilder's Sheffield United?
Yeah.
Are you?
Well, I mean, we talked about the whipping boys earlier. I think Sheffield United are in danger of entering into that category.
Yeah,
losing O'Connell. Losing O'Connell, I'd say, is as significant as Liverpool losing Van Dijk.
And Henderson's loss has been big.
Oh God, yeah.
Because Ramsdale,
I didn't think it would be as big as it has been. I thought Ramsdale would do well, but
he's not Henderson by far.
He's not Henderson
by margin. Do you think it's a clean sheet, Liverpool? I mean, if they don't keep one here, it's one of the 4 or 5 teams we've targeted as clean sheet material. Then I would be really worried because I expect the clean sheet in this game. Set pieces is the concern because without Van Dijk, blimey. And something tells me Chris Wilder is currently training set pieces. I've just got a feeling. A feeling.
That's very astute.
I know, I'm a master tactician. Southampton, Everton. Ooh, I think that's a tough one to call, actually.
It is with Richarlison out as well. I mean, be interesting to see what happens with Rodriguez because when Richarlison was last out, I think he was subbed. Rodriguez got forward a lot more, and we talk about it on the Scoutcast. I think Lee mentioned it. So I think it's a good game to have Rodriguez in. I don't think I find it hard to call. I think it could be a draw, this one.
I think I heard James on Planet FBL say that Southampton don't concede many or anything at all from cross balls so far this season, and obviously that's where Calvert-Lewin he gobbles them up, and they haven't got Richarlison providing width. So it'd be interesting to see with Coleman out as well, presumably. Because he picked up an injury. I don't know who will play right back because I think John Joe Kenny's got an injury as well. So there's problems in that Everton side. Not only Richarlison, they could be losing service on the right as well. So I think Southampton might get something out of that. I think they'll get a draw, 1-1. Wolves Newcastle. I think will be the win for Wolves, but I think they'll struggle again. I don't see a big margin of victory. Do you reinforce that opinion?
The stats don't point to it, but I think he will play Traore in this game,
right?
And I think it will be much more a case of get at them than we've seen in maybe the last few games. So I'm actually backing Semedo in this game. I think this is a good game for him. I think having him for this in the Palace game, I'm actually quite excited by it because I think he is going to be. He hasn't got to deal with like a left back like Eiling, just constantly bombing forward. It must have been so stressful seeing him get forward. I mean, I think he was playing at left centre back, wasn't he? He wasn't even playing at left back. I don't know why he was.
Well, he's playing at right centre back, was he? I don't know.
Right centre.
Yeah.
Was he? Yeah. He was. There must have been on the left, right? He's a left back.
No, Dallas is left back.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what was Semedo doing against Eiling then? God knows. Anyway, however it was painful watching as a Semedo owner, but
maybe you're right. I don't think so. I think Eiling was on the right hand side. Semedo must have been. What's going on there? They're right. It's true. I did see him up against him on.
He was. Yeah, he was.
Maybe I was wrong. I mean, I think it's a clean sheet, isn't it? You've got to say it's a good. You look at that and you think home banker and a clean sheet, but Newcastle.
I'm gonna go for a 2-0. I think Wolves will.
Arsenal, Leicester, neither team have got goals in them at the moment. Really disappointing their attacking output right now. The data suggests this is not going to have a lot of goals either. And it's interesting, we're beginning to look at fixtures and go, actually, we don't, Fulham Palace, we said a lot of goals. Southampton Everton might be not a lot of goals. Wolves Newcastle, Arsenal Leicester. Suddenly we're starting to veer towards a tighter set of matches.
Yeah, it's true.
So Arsenal Leicester, I think Arsenal will win 1-0. I don't really think it'll be more in it than that.
But what we think and what happens in reality,
I know, we're
is 4-4 Everton, and I think Arsenal win that match.
Yeah, and Brighton West Brom. Brighton will look pretty, will dominate the game, and probably draw 1-1 again. No, I think Brighton will win that.
What we just need an early goal for once in our lives. We just need an early goal just to settle ourselves down. I think we'll win this one. I think we'll win this one quite comfortably, to be honest. I think we could. I hate predicting a Brighton win, but I think we could win this 2-0.
Points for Mopay at last?
I think it has to be, yeah. And I think, Welbeck's interesting signing, because with him signing and with Connolly as well, I think there is a bit more pressure on Mopay than we might have seen.
Yeah, Welbeck gives
earlier.
you know-how, doesn't he? That's what he gives you, that bit of experience, a bit of know-how. That you've got Connolly's still young and up and coming, but he is competition for Mopay, I guess. And Burnley Spurs, that's obviously going to be 5-0 to Spurs with a Kane hat-trick, but do you see it going that way?
I hate the fact that it's the last game of the week on Monday night. That is absolutely brutal.
Yeah.
So Brighton lose to West Brom, and then Kane does do that. Then it's going to be a pretty bad week for me. I think Spurs will win. Kane has got a great record against Burnley. I remember watching them. Last year against Burnley, and they were just absolutely brilliant. It was when Son scored the goal of the season, didn't he? When he got it.
That was at home, when he ran for the pitch. Yeah.
I remember it was against Burnley. So I think I just worry about what team Burnley are going to put out. I worry about is Tarkowski and me fit.
Yeah.
Tarkowski. Did I get it right?
You got it right. You got it right. I was just teasing you. I don't know if James is still James still in the chat? Don't know. Okay.
I think it's going to be a pretty comfortable Spurs win, probably 3-0.
Yeah, I mean, Kane's record at Burnley always sticks in my mind because it was the first Kane exit hat-trick was at Burnley.
Oh, yeah, it was. Sorry, Jay, if you're listening.
Yeah.
Bad memories.
We bring that up all the time, don't we? We do go in.
You normally tell me off when I bring it up.
Poor Jay.
You normally tell me off. I can't believe you mentioned it.
I'm sure he doesn't watch us at all for that reason, because he knows every 3 or 4 shows we bring it up. Let's have a look at your team going into this game week then. You're not making any transfers.
No, and it's a nice position to be in. It's the first time I've actually looked at my team, and obviously I'm looking at my team and I'm thinking I would like Kane in for that Burnley game, but I'm not quite ready to lose Werner yet. And like I've been saying all this time, I'm interested to see what's going to happen when Ziyech is in, because Pulisic has been playing right back for some reason.
Yeah, what's going on there?
God knows. I mean, he just wants to play Mount at left wing for some reason because everyone loves Mount. I feel like Mount's made like a deal with the devil or something, which is like all my managers must love me, or in return I'll give you my soul. But yeah, I don't mind.
He's obviously
Mount.
A lovely guy, and people don't want to drop him because they like him so much. So
he's a lovely guy, and I think he's a good player. But when you're keeping Pulisic out from his preferred position in 2 consecutive games like that, it is a bit surprising. So I think Pulisic is going to be back on the left. I think Ziyech is going to be in now. He's had sort of 2 come off the bench in 2 games. I think he's ready now, so that's going to be interesting. And United. Well, look at the last time they were at home. It would be great for me if they had another complete disaster class like they did against Spurs. I can't quite see it somehow, but I do think there's going to be goals in it. So I don't think Werner. I think Werner has a chance of at least getting a goal. You
are heavy on Chelsea in that game. I mean, United could go either way. Obviously, they beat PSG. They're going to go in with confidence. So both your Chelsea big name signings there could blank. That's the trouble. So anyway, I don't want to give you a down. I don't want to be down on you, but I would be worried about it. But Mopay's going to save you. Souček, obviously he's due a goal. I'll be saying this for weeks, won't I? You're okay with him being first sub because he's there and he's going to trouble City, I think. No, he's living in that penalty area. He just needs to get on the end of something.
Yeah, I mean, he's there. I mean, he's so far advanced compared to the 4.5 midfielders. That he seemed just worth the extra 0.4 just to have someone on my bench. Yeah. I'm not really expecting much from him for the next 2, then he might. He's
going to haul when we bench him. He's going to haul then. That's going to happen. Mitchell, end of Mitchell this week, you think?
End of Mitchell, yeah. End of Mitchell. I mean, luckily I was debating whether to sell him or not on the Wildcard, and then I thought I'd keep him just because he was about to go up in price. So he has gone up in price now, so I can sell him at a profit at least if I decide to.
Well, here you go. Here's my team. So I've signed a new striker by the name of Harry Kane. I couldn't not do it. I sat there Monday night. Jimenez just got the goal, which was very fortunate. If Wolves have impressed me, if Wolves had run Leeds ragged, if Jimenez looked like he was, had a bigger score in him that game. But basically, I got a typical performance from what I expected from Wolves and a typical performance from Jimenez. He was probably their most dangerous player, and he tried to do. In the end, he did do it on his own. It was a bizarre goal, but he was kind of fortunate to come out of it with a return. Podence had 2 good chances.
Do you want to just read your team out quickly?
Yeah, sure. It's McCarthy in goal,
listeners?
Alexander-Arnold, Robertson, which is obviously a safe bet, Dina, so it's a powerful back three still, Podence, Grealish, Salah, Son, Souček, who will get that goal against City, Kane and Calvert-Lewin. Yeah, I want to play Souček over Ayling. I do think at set pieces and, you know, general play, West Ham will throw crosses in. There could be a chance, so I'm going to play him. And I'm captaining Salah at the moment over Kane. I think that's the way I'm going to go. Who did you have your captaincy on? I didn't look. Let's go back and check. You had it on Salah as well. What a surprise.
Yeah, mine's on Salah.
Yeah,
mine's on Salah as well. Yep.
So I've made my transfer, made it early. I took the risk. I don't think Salah's got an injury tonight, so I think I'm going to be. I don't think Kane will play in the Europa League, so I think I'll get away with it, but we'll see. I'm happy with that team. I think my tactic is at the moment just try and keep in touch. Sometimes you've got to get in the slipstream of the managers who are doing well and stay behind them, stay as close as you can. And that's what I'm doing. This team's not differential enough to make me gain ground. The only way I can gain ground is if Alexander-Arnold and Robertson and Dina come good, which they might. But other than that, I'm just trying to keep as close as I can to the people who are above me and wait for my opportunity to start taking some risks that have got some chance of delivering and look for an opportunity like Josh did, like to go at Wildcard, Kane and Son in. So I've got time, plenty of time, but for now I'll keep fairly template.
I think you're lucky that the Van Dijk news has come at a point when Liverpool have got these two good games. Because, you know, if Liverpool suddenly had two rough fixtures, you would surely be looking at those two and thinking I'd probably need to bin off one of them. But the fact they've got Sheffield United next, and then they've got West Ham, at home, both at home as well. So you've still got a chance for clean sheets in those and attacking returns. So not priority.
I think, here's a prediction, Alexander-Arnold will come good in one of those games. He will get a double figure return in one of those games, I think. He was unlucky with a free kick. It's only a matter of time. He's had 9 shots on goal, probably the most of any defender. A goal is coming from a free kick or a couple of assists in a match, and he'll get the bonus then. So I think Alexander-Arnold might do enough in the next couple of games to make me think seriously about not getting rid. But at the moment, it probably would be him going and Robertson being kept. So it's up to Trent to change my mind. I love Trent, love him dearly, so I don't want to sell him. So I'll take any little glimpse of hope will probably be enough, but I don't know if I'm going to get it. And I have to push money into midfield. I have to look at Podence and upgrade him, I think. And that's where I'll do James out next. Probably James out to Kilman or Stroik. And that was quite good. I got that right.
Yeah, very good.
And then Podence to Bowen is probably what I'm going to do in time for game week 8 when West Ham play Fulham. That's the idea. Because I think Bowen could be a decent differential.
We've only got 4 players the same.
Yeah, well, that's good. Yeah, it's almost by design. Captain Matrix.
No, sorry, 5.
Okay,
sorry.
Ruined it. So this game week, we've highlighted Salah versus Sheffield United, Kane versus Burnley, Son versus Burnley, Sterling, West Ham as the 4 most likely captains. And looking ahead, Kane and Son now are in place for game week 7, and also they're in place for game week 8 when we were looking at Antonio. So now I don't need Antonio.
No.
But he would be a good differential captain. I will probably go Kane at West Brom. I've got to, haven't I? Come on. Right,
well, yeah. I mean, that is prime. That is prime time because with Salah against City, the decision's a lot easier to make.
Yeah.
Compared to the other two.
The problem,
Kane versus West Brom is gonna. If I stick without Kane, that is the one I'm really worried about.
Yeah. Yeah, and when I looked at buying Kane, it was that West Brom fixture that convinced me. I was thinking, if I don't get him now, he's going to be like 7.2, 11.2 by the time he gets to West Brom because he's 10.7, he'll be 10.8 probably by a deadline, and it's just going to go, isn't it? The problem game week coming up is game week 10 that's when City start coming back into it. They've got that Burnley fixture at home, and you think if you haven't got City by then, that's where it could hurt. So Salah at Brighton's a good captain, but there will be lots of managers on Sterling and De Bruyne, I think, by then. So I've got to start looking at how I manoeuvre my team and whether Son makes way at that point. I mean, I need some money to do that, and that's where Trent might go. So
it might not be the one for you, but that could be around the time when you could move Kane on for Aguero.
Yeah, maybe. I just don't ever.
I know you're against it, but it could be. It could be something to consider.
I just don't ever see me doing that, but maybe. Captain data. So looking at this, I've sorted it by minutes per expected goal involvement, non-penalty, and Mane is top. Every time we look at stats, Mane stands out.
Yep.
And yet we don't consider him because he doesn't take penalties. Are we making a mistake?
Yeah. And his price. I mean, he's what he's the second most expensive player in the game, right? Well, no, there's Aubameyang. He's probably second or third. So you've got Salah and then Aubameyang.
He's cheaper than Salah, though. Right. So.
Yeah, but just not by enough. I just think if you're picking, still at this point, if you're picking one player for any match out of those two, you're always going to pick Salah. And I know the stats don't always show that, but I just wouldn't pick Mane over Salah.
Minutes per expected goal involvement, non-penalty. Mane's on 94.9, Calvert-Lewin 100.7, Kane at 122.7, and Salah. Look at Salah, 272 minutes per expected goal involvement. That's not a penalty.
The drop off from those four. I mean, Mane, Calvert-Lewin, Kane, and Son are like all looking good, and then the drop off down to Salah is huge.
Well, Salah's scored goals, but he's scored goals that he wasn't expected to score. Yeah. That's the problem, other than penalties, which he is. Yeah. So the 4 goals he's got have all been good quality goals, basically. Has he got, how many pens has he taken? 2? I can't quite recall what it is, but
2 in that one game, right?
It's 2. So he's got so he's got 4 goals from open play, and obviously all good high quality goals, low quality XG. Minutes per shot's interesting. Minutes per shot, Salah and Kane dominate. Salah's had a shot every 18 minutes and Kane's beaten at 17.8 at the moment. Minutes per shot in the box, Salah beats Kane 23.7 to 27.8. But if you look at minutes per point, it's Kane and Son miles ahead, 7.4 and 7.6. Salah out at 9.4. So it's close, isn't it? Looking at the defensive data, Burnley's defence fares well. Minutes per XG, 83.2, which is second to Chelsea on 81.5 in our little sample here. So the Burnley defence looks tighter than Sheffield United's. But, don't know. Ben Mee's back, apparently.
It's where those kind of stats, I'm not all. I mean, I look at Brighton and I think for those stats, I should be looking at Brighton and thinking they look really resolute, and I don't think they do. And I look at Chelsea and I think, well, they could concede all the time. I mean, with Mendy back, he might be different. But I look at Burnley and I just think they look.
Yeah. So you think the stats? Like, I mean, who have they played? I mean, that's the important thing. They've played Leicester, Southampton, Newcastle, and West Brom. So you'd expect their minutes per XG to be low, to be high rather. Because those teams aren't attacking sides, apart from maybe Southampton. Leicester have struggled this year. Newcastle, West Brom certainly have for goals. So Burnley, perhaps the data, we shouldn't be persuaded by that, and we should perhaps have confidence in Tottenham going there and scoring some goals.
I just can't shake what Joe said a few weeks ago on the Scoutcast, where he said he looks at Burnley and he sees them like he did Bournemouth last season, where they just look a bit out of ideas, like they just look a bit kind of labouring towards the end. They're just kind of going to not pick up enough points and just go down without too much of a fight. And I could be completely wrong about that, but that just kind of is what I think. I just don't think they've got enough in the tank to get through this season. And I think the only way they're going to stay up is if teams around them just do a lot worse. And I think when they're coming into a team like Spurs with the form they've got, it's not a good time.
The one stat I'd pick out here, though, is Sheffield United have conceded a big chance every 59 minutes, whereas Burnley have conceded one every 75. So, although Burnley have had poorer opposition than Sheffield United with a big chance every 59 minutes suggests that Liverpool look at it and think, we're going to be vulnerable at set pieces. We've got to get 3 goals. We can't. 2 won't be enough because they'll expect Sheffield United to get one. So suddenly you're looking at a Liverpool attack now that has to go all guns blazing, don't they? And that's the thing that has me on Salah, I think. And Savert, we got his captaincy. Savert is the guy. Savert is the guy who got the most points from captains last season. He has gone. Now, bearing in mind, he's got Son and he's got Kane because he wildcarded and he got those guys in. So he's got Kane and Salah. He is going Salah.
Yeah.
So there you go.
There you go. Doesn't surprise me. I think Salah is I think Salah is the pick, to be fair. But I do think it's close.
Okay, we're going to end with the Black Box League. We've been mentioning it, and hats off to Djibouti Samantha. Very difficult to pronounce, but well done. Nice. He's ranked 65 in the world, he or she, ranked 65 in the world, and top of the Black Box League. Team value of 101.1 million. This data, by the way, is courtesy of Mini League Mate, who are a great service. You should look them up.
And they do not sponsor us. So
no, they don't sponsor us. I just went to them because I like what they do, and they've given us access to their service. And so if you run a Mini League, definitely look at what they do. It's really interesting. You get loads of data, of which this kind of table is what you get. And it shows here what interesting as well is in the top 20 in the Black Box League, the most hits taken is 12 points, and I've taken 16. So if I needed any more evidence that I need to curb my hit habit, it's that kind of stat. I need to stop it, and I stop it, I will. So, just one thing left to say, isn't there? That is the subscribe and likes.
The smash. And I will just say there is a link to the league in the description. So if you haven't joined the mini league, please do. It would be lovely to knock Andy's Let's Talk FPL off his top 5 perch one day. That's got to be the goal.
Let's upset Mr. Slippers, basically.
That's the dream. I mean, I don't think we're going to overtake him in terms of the subscribers he's got. He's on over 100,000.
We'll get there one day.
It'd be nice to put a dent into it.
He's bound to have a week off at some point, and we'll catch him in that week. But yeah, he's relentless with his videos. The league code is V8TXT2P. It's always in the bottom corner of our YouTube feed.
Yep.
So if you're watching that, that's where it's at. If you're not watching that, watch that, and the code's there. So join our league and help us beat Andy. It's a crusade. But yes, so that's it. So we will do a spontaneous...
Smash the sub right. If you're watching now and you haven't subbed, please sub now. It's very helpful.
I would press the button, but I don't think I've got it working, so I don't want
to press it. We've had one dislike, so whoever did that... Oh, it's gone. Our words have gone. So yeah, hit the like button now. That'd be good. I mean, we've got 1,000 watching, only 178 likes. So if everyone... So we're going to sit here until everyone has liked.
Subscribe. I'll tell you what, though. We had more people watching Friday nights, drunken... last-minute feeds.
I know.
And so we've got to do more of those, and we promise we will do it. And what we're going to try and do is get a few guests on ad hoc from the community and make it kind of a drop-in show. We'll plan when the next spontaneous one will be, which doesn't make sense, does it? But we will plan when it will be. But we will do more of those because we did enjoy it, and Ash kind of enjoyed it, didn't you?
I loved it. Sit on Friday night drinking some beers, talking FPL. It doesn't get much better. So now it was a lot of fun actually. I did enjoy it. We went up to 4 dislikes. That's gone down to 1. I think people are just
they're teasing you,
just teasing us. Yeah.
But it was good fun to do. We will do more then. But for now, it's the regular show that we're going to churn out every week.
Yep.
But that is enough for me and as for this week. So it's a good night for me.
Good night, everyone. Thanks for listening.